Welcome to my no bullshit charge blade guide for Monster Hunter Wilds. The charge blade is considered the most difficult weapon to master in Monster Hunter. It hits insanely hard, can KO monsters, shreds like a chainsaw, and can block almost every attack with ease. This weapon is for you if you can't decide between a big sword and shield or a massive axe, so you use both. The gameplay is aggressive and you're constantly morphing between modes mid-fight. The downside, it's one of the most complex weapons in the game. Managing files, buffs and different modes takes practice, but once you master it, you will be unstoppable. Now, let's dive straight in. The charge blade is a morphing weapon with two modes, sword and shield and axe. Our playstyle revolves around using sword attacks to charge files and charge up your shield with them. Then we unleash the energy with the axe to do huge damage. You have to understand both modes to get the most out of the charge blade. Before we check the combos, let's check how we can switch between these modes. When you are in sword and shield mode, your basic morph into axe mode is performed by pressing R2 and triangle or Y together. If you're in axe mode, just press R2 and you will morph back to sword and shield. You can also directly draw into axe by pressing R2. There are more ways to morph and I will cover them a bit later. But first, let's talk about the basics of the sword and shield mode. When you press triangle or Y, you will do a simple 3-hit combo. The last round slash hits the hardest. If you roll and press triangle or Y, you will only do the last 2 hits. When you press circle or B, you will do a charged rising slash. If you hold the button, you will charge up and perform a charged double slash if you time it correctly with the red glow on your character. In the top left corner, just below your sharpness indicator, you will see the weapon-specific mechanic of the charge blade. A sword, a shield, an axe, and 5 files. For now, let's focus on the files. The hits with your sword will generate sword energy, which makes your files glow, indicating that you can charge them. The basic way to charge is by holding R2 and then pressing circle or B. You can also do that mid-combo. Your files will glow in 3 different colors. Yellow will charge 3 files, red charges 5, and overcharge red, which also charges 5. But in this mode, your sword attacks will bounce off the monster, so make sure to fill your files before. You can even overcharge your files by charging them again when they are full. This way they will become boosted and look like they are overflowing. This makes your discharge attacks even stronger. When you press and hold circle after the charge, you will store your files into your shield with the element boost. It starts to glow, gets stronger, and your axe attacks are amplified. The more files you store, the longer your shield will be buffed. It also glows down in the top left corner for the duration of the buff. If you only press circle or B instead of holding, you will morph into axe mode with an axe attack. Holding triangle or Y instead will perform the condensed element slash. If your shield is buffed, it will also charge up your sword. Your attacks will no longer bounce, and each sword hit will deal extra fire damage. And your sword will start to glow too. Pressing triangle or circle or Y and B together makes you take a big step and do a forward slash. You can follow all these basic attacks up with a shield thrust by pressing triangle and circle. And with a buffed shield, it does also extra fire damage. If you need to reposition yourself after an attack, you can hold your directional input and press circle or B to do a fade slash. This one is very useful for mobility. Another way to move mid-combo is to press X or A after your sword attacks. You will perform a quick sidestep towards your directional input. Most of these attacks can be combined into each other, providing a smooth sword and shield gameplay. Now, let's take a look at the axe mode. Your triangle or Y attack is a 2-hit combo that reaches high and cuts down afterwards. If you hold your directional input, you can move around while slashing. When you press circle or B, you will perform the element discharge combo. It's long and has 4 pieces, which hits multiple times and does big damage. It will also do extra file damage if you have charged files available. Each hit consumes 1 file. The third part of the combo is the hard-hitting amped element discharge, or AED, one of these signature moves of the charge blade. When you press triangle and circle or Y and B together, you will directly perform it from X mode. This can also be done after a shield thrust and sword and shield mode. Then you can press circle or B again to do the AED follow-up like in our basic circle combo. If your shield is buffed, we have another move. After either AED or the follow-up, you can press triangle and circle or Y and B together to perform the hardest hitting attack of the charge blade, the super amped element discharge, also known as SAED. This one looks extremely cool, hits hard and discharges all of your files at the same time. The more you have stored, the more damage it does. After that, you will morph back to sword and shield mode. Holding L2 allows you to aim all of your axe attacks. When you jump off a ledge, you can press triangle or Y to perform an attack with your current mode. If you press R2 instead, you will morph. And if you slide down a ledge, you can press X to jump and then do the same attack. Lastly, if you hold R2, you will raise your shield and block incoming attacks. More on that later. Also, you can hold R2 to block while you're sliding. Alright, now that we covered the basics, let's go into more advanced stuff. First, let's take a look at all the ways we can buff our shield. The basic one is by holding circle or B after you charge your files. You can also press R2 and triangle and circle or Y and B together after a shield thrust. Lastly, when you perform an AED, you can press R2 to cancel it and store your files into the shield. You know what's more savage than an axe? An axe with a spinning chainsaw head. Yeah, we can not only buff the sword and the shield, but also the axe. It's called Power Axe mode. While active, the first 2 hits of your element discharge combo won't consume files anymore, and your AED and the follow-up consumes only half a file each. This lets you stay in axe mode much longer to dish out more damage. On top of that, you can hold your button presses to not only hit the monster, but also saw into them with each hit for even more damage. Also, it just looks cool as hell. There are 4 ways to activate the Power Axe mode. The first one is connected to the new mechanic of Monster Hunter Wilds, the Focus mode. When you hold L2 and press R1, you will perform the Focus Slash double rend. If you land this attack on a wounded part, you will follow up with a Savage Axe attack, buffing your axe for 2 minutes. The next way to activate Power Axe is after a successful mount attack, by pressing R1 on a wound for the mount finisher. The last 2 ways are connected to blocking, so let's cover that fast. Holding R2 will block incoming attacks with your shield. The block gets stronger if your shield is buffed. Depending on the attack, you will take chip damage and will be knocked back. But if you block just before the hit, you will perform a perfect block. This negates the damage completely and allows us to follow up with triangle or Y and activate our Power Axe. Finally, blocking sometimes leads to the extreme cool looking clash animation. If that happens, spam triangle or Y to push the monster back and then press triangle again to activate your Power Axe. Now let's take a closer look at blocking. After each block, you can press triangle and circle or Y and B together to counter with an AED. If your shield is buffed, you will do an SAED instead. If you don't want to unload all over the monster, you can hold your left stick down and press triangle or Y to cancel it into a normal AED. Besides this way of blocking, we also have so-called guard points. These are indicated with a short white glow on your shield, usually when it's in front of you. During this window, you block incoming attacks and can do the follow-ups like mentioned before. These are your guard points. At the start after drawing your axe with R2, at the start of the Morph Slash from Sword and Shield, at the end of the Morph Slash in Axe, at the end of your Round Slash or Elemental Round Slash after an AED cancel, and during your Elemental Boost. Lastly, there are 2 types of Charge Blade files, Elemental and Impact files. Just inspect your weapon to see which one yours has. Elemental files do more elemental damage, while Impact files do physical damage that exhausts and can even knock out monsters. Alright, we know how to attack and defend. Now, how do we play this in a real hunt? Here are some tips. Our general playstyle is pretty simple. Do you have files? If no, charge them up. Is your shield buffed? If no, buff your shield. Is Power Axe enabled? If no, try and enable it. Then, if you have files, go big brrrr with the Axe mode. Here are some useful combos. To fill your files fast, perform the charge double slash into the round slash, followed by another charge double slash, and then charge your files. After that, hold circle or B to directly buff your shield. You can also use the shield thrust instead of the round slash. With a buffed shield, this also does a little bit more damage. When your shield is buffed and you reloaded your files, press 2 times triangle and circle or Y and B to perform a shield thrust into an AED. From here on, you can keep fighting in Axe mode. After a perfect block and enabling Power Axe, you can keep pressing circle or B to continue hitting the monster. You can also loop the first 2 hits of your circle or B combo with triangle or Y for insane stationary damage. With Power Axe, this doesn't consume any files, so you can do this forever. And don't forget to hold your buttons down during Power Axe for extra damage. A quick way to get into Power Axe at the start of a hunt is by perfectly blocking the initial scream of the monster and then following up with a Savage Axe hit. The timing can be tricky, but it's pretty fast. But if your character is strong and independent, you can also use a small barrel bomb to perfectly block and then activate the Power Axe. Thanks to our guard points, we can play extremely aggressive all the time. Sending an SAED after guard pointing an attack is one of the best feelings while playing Charge Blade. And please, don't let the complexity of the weapon discourage you. Learn through mistakes and get good eventually. Got questions? Drop a comment or ask me live on twitch.tv/NinoMMO. If this video helped, hit that subscribe button and consider supporting me directly on Patreon. It really helps me keep making these no bullshit guides. Want to know the best Charge Blade armor skills? Check out this video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.